I've been in the East now for 35 years. I got to Manhattan in 1983. It was a very interesting time there, primarily because we were still a small group and yet we were spread out, and with the logistics of New York City, it became very hard sometimes to do a lot of things on an easy basis. The only fighter practice was in Queens, and people had to take 2 trains and a bus at least just to get there. Along the mid-'80s, I was living in Manhattan and I had a backyard. So I decided, well, maybe we could have a little fighter practice here in Manhattan. And a few people would show up on Tuesday nights, and we would study the art of the pugilistic sport of broadsword fighting, along with how to dance and play chess. And after fighting practice, I was thirsty and it was time for some food, and not having a lot of food in the house all the time, we decided we would go across the street over on 2nd Avenue to P.J. Reynolds. It was a cop bar at the corner of 20th Street, actually, and 2nd Avenue. And there we would think about wonderful, great philosophical things and talk about what it meant to be a knight, or what it meant to be a laurel or a pelican, or just what the group meant. Along about 88, we were suddenly influxed with a group of Utes, as we say here in New York now. They were people from Forbidden Planet and from NYU who had heard about us and wanted to know more about us. And we would just tell people, well, you want to know about the SCA? Come to P.J. Reynolds on Tuesday nights. And out of that came a little subsection of the SCA called the Children's Crusade. We dubbed them that because they were all people under the age of 25, pretty much. We had a good time, and we decided that what we needed was a chance for 6 more people to be important. In those days, it was just the Crown Province itself. The group in Westchester was called North Pass. There was a canton forming out in Lyons End, out in Nassau County, and there was a St. Piers Well on Long Island, or Staten Island, which came and went rather quickly. We had some resistance, because why would you want to have a canton, a subsection of a group in Manhattan when you have all the wonderfulness of Queens? It's difficult to get to Queens sometimes. Living in New York City and its public transportation, since most people do not own cars, was and still is a hardship on interborough travel, especially when people are working in Manhattan and then getting back to Queens. They don't want to then come back to Manhattan for something. And the people in Manhattan don't want to go anywhere, as a general rule, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way life in New York City is. We were able to convince people that having a canton would be a good thing, and indeed it did give a chance for 6 more people to be important, because with the provincial officers only being 6, and pretty long time too, it was very difficult for anyone to have some new blood to come in. So we came, we sat, we chatted, we talked, we beat it around. Our first name was the Canton of the Great Whyt Whey, Grate.
Explain the puns. Explain Østgarðr and what Østgarðr means, and why.
Well, Østgarðr itself, if it's spelled Ostgardr, but it has a slash through the O, meaning Eastern Gate, and that was determined, in the late 60s, early 70s. Problem is, if you don't put the slash through the O in Norwegian, it becomes Østgarðr, which means cheese farm. So everybody from Østgarðr, we're just a bunch of cheese farmers. Oh yeah, sure, don't you know? And so Whyt Whey, W-H-E-Y, being a takeoff on Cheese Farm. And of course, the synonym, shall we say, for Broadway, Broadway theater area is the Great Whyt Whey. We felt it would be really good. We were told that we could not have great, G-R-A-T-E, but we could possibly get by with Whyt Whey, provided, of course, nobody objected to it. Duchess Isabella of York was asked, "What do you feel about this name?" Her Grace is indeed a lady of color, as they're referred to nowadays. And she said, "Some white guy thought that up, didn't he?" It was not in the sense that we all knew what it meant. Nobody was offended.